You think it's over when the judge signs the papers. The shouting stops, the court dates end, and for the first time in months, maybe years, you breathe. But what if I told you that's not the finish line? For a lot of men, that's the beginning of a different kind of struggle, one that doesn't show up in legal documents or headlines. It's quiet, it's slow, and it drains you in ways you never expected. Because long after the lawyers shake hands and the paperwork's filed away, hidden costs start to surface. Costs that don't come with warning labels or court orders. They show up in your mailbox, your bank statements, and sometimes in your own reflection. And while no one's talking about them, they're real, and they're wrecking more men's lives than anyone wants to admit. This isn't about bitterness. It's about awareness. Because the truth is, divorce doesn't just take half your stuff. It can keep taking for years if you're not careful. In this video, we're going to uncover 9 hidden divorce costs that quietly bleed men's finances long after the case is closed. Some of these will surprise you. Some may already be happening without you noticing. And one of them could hit you when it's far too late to fix. Let's get into it. The first hit comes fast, and it doesn't feel like a hit at all. It feels like freedom. After the divorce, many men leave the family home thinking they'll catch their breath, find a decent apartment, maybe even start fresh. But that first move, it's usually the beginning of a long, expensive trap. Rent isn't what it used to be. Landlords want deposits, proof of income, sometimes even 6 months up front if your credit took a hit during the divorce. And you're not just paying rent, you're furnishing a new place from scratch. A bed, a table, dishes, maybe a couch if there's anything left over. Every piece of furniture becomes a line item you didn't plan for. Utilities double because now you're covering everything on your own. Internet, heat, electricity, trash. All the stuff you used to split or just didn't notice when the bills came in under one roof. And it doesn't stop there. You might find yourself moving again. Maybe that first apartment was too small, too expensive, or just too depressing. Each move racks up more fees, more U-Haul rentals, more time off work. And through all of this, you're not building equity. You're spending thousands just to survive month to month in a place that doesn't belong to you. Meanwhile, your ex might still be living in the home you helped pay for, with your name still on the mortgage. It's not just a financial strain, it's a psychological one. You're out, but the house, the life, the comfort, it stay behind. And the worst part? Most men don't notice how much this housing spiral costs until they've burned through their savings and realize they're living in a box they don't even like for a price they can't afford. But that's just the beginning. Alimony looks simple on paper. A number, a deadline, a monthly routine. You convince yourself it's manageable, just another bill to pay. But what nobody tells you is how quickly that number becomes unbearable when life keeps moving and the terms don't. Because while your income might fluctuate and the cost of everything around you quietly rises, that alimony check stays the same. Or worse, it gets worse. Inflation doesn't care about your divorce decree. Groceries climb, gas climbs, rent jumps, but your court order doesn't magically adjust. And even if you try to modify it, you're likely facing another round of legal fees, paperwork, and the uncomfortable return to court where nothing is guaranteed. You could end up spending thousands just to ask a judge to reduce a payment by a few $100. And that's if you even qualify. Meanwhile, life happens. You lose hours at work. You get sick. You take on unexpected expenses. But the obligation doesn't go away. If you miss a payment, even once, it stacks fast. Penalties, interest, even wage garnishment. Some men have had their licenses suspended, tax refunds seized, bank accounts frozen, all over missed support. And that's not because they're deadbeats. It's because life shifted and the system didn't care. It doesn't matter how fair the arrangement felt on day one. Life isn't static, and neither are your finances. But alimony? That stays locked in, slowly bleeding your bank account while everything else becomes more expensive. You start skipping other bills. You stop saving. You tell yourself it's just temporary, but months turn into years, and your money's going everywhere except back to you. And the next cost? It's when you thought you were done with the second you split the assets. Turns out, even the money you kept can still come back to bite you. You thought splitting the assets was the clean part. Half for you, half for them, and it's done. But what nobody talks about is the hidden price tag attached to everything you divide, especially when it comes to liquidating those assets. That retirement account you dipped into to make things fair, it probably came with early withdrawal penalties, income taxes, and long-term losses you haven't even begun to feel yet. Maybe you sold a house. Sounds smart, right? Until the capital gains tax hits. Until you realize closing costs, realtor fees, and repairs ate a bigger slice than expected. What looked like a $100,000 payout suddenly shrinks to far less, and that's before you split it. And if you cashed out mutual funds, stocks, or any other investments during a market dip, you didn't just lose money, you lost time. Time your portfolio needed to grow, compound, and support you later in life. Even smaller things add up. Vehicles sold in a rush. Furniture replaced. Joint accounts closed with little left inside. And all of it happening while you're emotionally exhausted and likely making rushed decisions just to get it over with. Then there's the lawyer's final invoice. You thought everything was paid until that last hour bill for reviewing some paperwork or sending one more email. Suddenly you're $1,200 lighter and they haven't even picked up the phone. This is the trap. You think divorce gives you a clean slate. But what it really does is hand you a bag full of half-broken pieces. Some you'll have to pay to fix, others you'll be forced to throw out. And while you're still trying to recover what you lost, something else shows up, another cost you thought ended when the judge banged the gavel. But it didn't. It just changed form. The courtroom may be quiet now, but your legal bills probably aren't. Because even after the divorce is finalized, the lawyers don't always leave the picture. In fact, for a lot of men, post-divorce legal fees can become a second, longer-lasting wave. And this time, there's no dramatic trial to explain where your money's going. Maybe it starts with a custody disagreement. Your ex wants to change the visitation schedule. You disagree. Suddenly, you're back in mediation or worse, court. Or maybe it's something smaller. A missed child support payment due to a banking error, a dispute over who pays for braces, summer camp, or a last-minute school trip. Every little issue becomes a motion, a hearing, a consultation, and each one costs money. Lawyers charge by the hour, not by the outcome. So even if the issue gets resolved, you're still paying for the email chain, the call, the paperwork. You start recognizing your attorney's invoice template better than your own paycheck. And what's worse, you don't always win. Judges don't always rule in your favor. Sometimes, you just pay to maybe get heard. And then there's the fear. The fear of what happens if you don't respond. If you ignore that email. If you miss a deadline. That fear keeps you tethered to the legal process long after the marriage ended. You pay to protect yourself, even when nothing seems urgent, just in case. Because the system is unforgiving to silence. Divorce was supposed to be the conclusion. But for a lot of men, it's only the opening chapter in a long, drawn-out legal saga they never wanted to star in. And while you're spending money just trying to stay afloat legally, there's another drain quietly tugging at your wallet. One that's much harder to say no to, especially when it involves your kids. Child support is supposed to be straightforward, a fixed monthly number based on income and custody. But anyone who's lived it knows the reality is messier, more emotional, and far more expensive than the paperwork suggests. Because after the official payments are made, a second, unofficial economy begins. One made of guilt, pressure, and expectations you never agreed to. It starts small. A school field trip, new sneakers, a birthday gift your ex says you should really handle this year. You want to be involved, so you say yes. Then it's summer camps, tutoring, braces, sports leagues, and suddenly you're shelling out hundreds every month on top of your formal obligation, just to stay present in your child's life. And the courts? They assume that number covers everything. But try telling your kid no when they ask why mom says there's no money for their soccer uniform, or why you can't drive them to a weekend tournament like her new boyfriend can. You're not just co-parenting, you're competing whether you admit it or not. Many men find themselves saying yes to things they can't afford, just to avoid conflict or keep from looking like the absent parent. And when they try to set boundaries, they're painted as selfish or unreliable. The emotional blackmail isn't always intentional, but it's real, and it works. Meanwhile, your budget is shot. You're pulling from savings, skipping your own needs, and justifying it all with it's for the kids. But when you're broke and stressed, what are you really giving them? You're still showing up? Yes, but at what cost? And just when you think it couldn't squeeze more out of you, another cost creeps in, this time through your own body. Because stress doesn't just affect your mind. It starts to show up in places no court order could predict. At first, you think it's just exhaustion. The kind that makes you want to sleep in a little longer, skip the gym, order takeout instead of cooking. But over time, it starts feeling different. You're more irritable. You forget things. Your chest feels tight. You're waking up at 3 a.m. with a knot in your stomach, and you don't even know why. That's when it hits you. Divorce didn't just drain your bank account. It's been draining your health, too. Stress like this doesn't just go away once the court case closes. It lingers. It eats away at your energy, your focus, even your immune system. You start getting sick more often. Maybe you stop going to the doctor because you lost your insurance in the divorce. That's more common than you'd think. Health plans tied to a spouse's employer are often the first thing to go. Now you're on the hunt for a new plan, paying out of pocket, or worse, just hoping nothing serious happens. Meanwhile, your mental health takes quiet damage. You're dealing with isolation, resentment, guilt, and constant financial anxiety. And maybe you don't talk about it because you think you're supposed to be over it. So you push it down. You smile through it. You say you're fine when you're anything, but that kind of pressure builds. Blood pressure rises. Sleep suffers. You gain weight or lose too much. Your body is screaming for attention, but your budget says no. So you ignore it, hoping it'll go away. It won't. This is one of those hidden costs nobody sees coming because it doesn't show up as a bill. It shows up slowly through prescriptions, emergency visits, lost work hours, and the mounting realization that you're not the same person you were before all this started. And while you're trying to hold yourself together, something even more damaging is brewing in the background. One decision you thought was final, but might come back to haunt you through someone else's mistake. You assumed once the debts were split, they were no longer your problem. Your ex took the car loan, you kept the credit card, and everything was spelled out in black and white. But here's the part nobody explains. Lenders don't care what your divorce decree says. If your name is still on the paperwork, you're still on the hook. That co-signed credit card you forgot about, if she misses a payment, your credit score takes the hit. The joint auto loan she was supposed to refinance, if she never does, and the payments stop, guess who the collections agency calls? It doesn't matter what the judge ordered. It matters whose name is on the contract. And the banks will come for whoever they can get money from first. That's usually you. And it gets worse. You might not even know there's a problem until it's too late. A missed payment here, a default there, and suddenly your credit score drops 100 points. Now that apartment you wanted is out of reach. That loan you needed for your business? Denied. And when you try to fix it, you're buried in paperwork, phone calls, and arguments that only remind you just how little control you still have. Even if you're meticulous, there's no guarantee your ex will be. People move on. They get careless. They remarry. And all it takes is one forgotten bill with your name still attached to unravel everything you've been rebuilding. You thought divorce meant you were untangled. But when it comes to shared debt, the strings don't cut clean. They fray and tangle and tighten when you least expect it. And while you're working overtime to clean up someone else's mess, another cost creeps in, this one fueled by pride, appearances, and the pressure to look like you're doing just fine without her. There's a moment after divorce when you feel like you need to prove something to your ex, to your friends, maybe even to yourself. So you keep up the lifestyle. You upgrade your car. You splurge on dates. You buy gifts for the kids that are bigger, flashier, more expensive than before. You eat out more. You tell yourself it's just temporary, that you deserve to enjoy life again. But under the surface, it's not about enjoyment. It's about performance. You won't look like you're thriving. Like the divorce didn't rattle you. Like you're not still figuring out who you are without the marriage. And so you start spending to build an image that you're successful, unbothered, and fully in control. But here's the quiet truth. Most men who do this are barely holding it together. It doesn't happen all at once. A few dinners out turn into a weekly habit. That trip you took to clear your head becomes a credit card balance you can't quite pay off. The new apartment in the trendy neighborhood drains your account faster than you expected. And before you realize it, the money you told yourself was a cushion is gone. The savings you promised you'd rebuild? Still untouched. You're not spending because you have money. You're spending because you don't want to feel the loss. But no amount of expensive distractions will fix what's broken if you're burying it under receipts and debt. And the longer you try to maintain the illusion, the deeper the hole gets. By the time you slow down, you've already lost valuable time, credit, and peace of mind. And yet, none of this compares to the one cost that almost always slips through unnoticed until the day you really need it and realize you gave it away years ago without even knowing. Retirement is one of those things you assume you'll catch up on later. You tell yourself that once things settle down, once the alimony ends or the legal fees stop piling up, you'll start saving again. But here's the trap. Divorce doesn't just pause your future, it rewrites it. And for many men, the damage to their retirement isn't obvious until it's far too late to undo. Maybe you split a 401k or pension during the divorce. That already cuts your long-term cushion in half. But it's what happens next that really does the damage. You stop contributing. You cash out early to cover legal costs or living expenses. You skip a few years thinking you'll catch up later, only to realize the years you skipped were the ones where compound growth mattered the most. And if you remarried or took on new financial obligations, retirement slips even further down the priority list. Suddenly you're 50, 55, maybe 60, and the numbers don't look anything like they used to. That vision of a relaxed, secure future starts feeling more like a fading daydream. Even if you did everything right during the marriage, worked hard, saved smart, divorce can set you back a decade or more. And most men don't realize it until they sit down with a financial planner and hear the truth. You're behind, and there's no magic fix. By then, it's not just about money. It's about choices. You don't get to retire early. You don't get to travel the way you wanted. You don't get to slow down. Instead, you're working longer, living smaller, and quietly wondering how it all slipped away. Because the truth is, the biggest cost of divorce isn't paid up front. It's the slow bleed, the steady erosion of a future you thought you'd built. And unless you see it early, it'll take more than money to get it back. The real cost of divorce isn't always in the courtroom. It's in the years that follow, when the noise dies down and the hidden losses start to surface. Most men think the hardest part is getting through the legal battle, signing the papers, and walking away. But that's just the start. What comes after is quieter, slower, and far more dangerous. It's in the apartment you can't afford but feel too ashamed to leave. It's in the alimony check that doesn't adjust when your income drops. It's in the retirement account that shrank without you even noticing. It's in the habits you pick up trying to cope, spending to feel alive, saying yes to everything to avoid guilt, ignoring your health because there's no time or money to deal with it. One by one, these costs stack up until you're looking at your bank account, your body, your future, and asking, how did I end up here? This isn't about regret. It's about awareness. Because when you know where the traps are, you can avoid them. You can make different choices, ones that protect your finances, your health, and your future. Maybe that means tightening your spending now. Maybe it means having uncomfortable conversations. Maybe it's just finally admitting that you need help before things get worse. Whatever it is, start now. Because these hidden costs don't hit all at once. They creep in. They wait for you to stop paying attention. And if you're not careful, they'll keep taking until there's nothing left. If this video hit close to home, you're not alone. Drop a comment and tell us which cost surprised you the most, or which one you faced yourself. And if you're still watching, consider subscribing. We make videos to help men protect their futures, one hard truth at a time. Thanks for being here.